Crime families are nothing new in America. Whether it's the real-life Gambinos or the Sopranos on TV, the motto's the same. What happens in the family stays in the family. Because if it doesn't, you could blow the lid off the whole operation. Sometimes all it takes is someone ratting you out to the feds.
Kid, you wearing a wire?
You crazy?
That's what? Let him down.
He touches me.
Then make it easy on us all. Take him off. Everything.
And if you're the Biden family, you don't get to spend 50 years running the game without keeping it all in the family. But last night, we learned the Bidens may have been compromised, as investigative reporter Paul Sperry broke to us that the Biden family has been under federal surveillance for years.
Another Chinese partner of his, a guy named Patrick Ho, his office for SEFC was raided, we learned recently, from some law enforcement documents, was actually raided. The feds actually put the Chinese partners under a FISA surveillance, and at the same time they were monitoring the Biden's communications with those Chinese partners.
So the Bidens are all over FBI wiretaps, talking to China. The FBI was investigating Patrick Ho, a Chinese bagman who eventually got popped for bribing African leaders and helping Iran evade sanctions. Real nice guy. So what does Ho have to do with the Biden family? Well, Ho was the VP for the Chinese energy company that was getting the Bidens rich. But Ho was also a spy, and Hunter knew he was a spy. Hunter's on tape calling Ho the effing spy chief of China. Ho handed Hunter and Jimmy the Chin millions in dirty Chinese money. Consulting fees is what they call that. Hunter and the Chin were bribed with Chinese consulting fees. The FBI knew Ho was an intelligence agent, and they were listening to his phone calls. And the FBI finally picked him up at JFK, slapped the cuffs on him, and booked him right here in Manhattan. So Ho gets his one phone call. And of all people, Ho calls the Chin, and the Chin calls Hunter. And Hunter picks up the phone, and Ho asks him to be his lawyer. How much? Says Hunter. $1 million, says Ho. Deal, says Hunter. So Hunter's representing Ho, the effing spy chief of China, and the FBI knew it. Ho even had joint bank accounts with China and the Bidens, and the FBI knew that too. The FBI even raided Ho's office, got his phones, got his computers, documents. At this point, they didn't even need Hunter's laptop. They had Ho wired. And Hunter and the Biden family were wired in. It was a $6 million relationship, at least. I mean, there could be more. They're hiding it. But did the FBI give a defensive briefing to the Bidens? Hey, guys, you might want to watch out for Ho and the CEFC. These guys are no good. These guys are spies and might want to take down our country. No. The FBI just watched. The FBI watched, and they listened. As Hunter got bribed with diamonds, slept with Jackie Bao, set up phone calls with Joe Biden to cut gas deals. So if they didn't get a defensive briefing, what was the FBI doing for the last couple years?
Patrick Ho was convicted of bribing government officials in Africa, and he gave $1 million to Hunter Biden. Are you familiar with that?
I'm not going to speak about any ongoing investigation.
Is that an ongoing investigation?
I'm not going to speak about any potential ongoing investigation.
Don't you see that
The spy chief of China was in bed with the Bidens, and the FBI knew it the whole time. The diamonds, the gas deals, the text messages, the wire transfers. So when the computer repair shop guy, remember him with the hat, handed the feds the laptop, the feds said, yeah, we know. But they still lied. When the New York Post exposed the laptop, the intelligence community called the October surprise Russia disinformation. So why would they do that if they knew it was real? Well, obviously they wanted Trump out of office. He fingered them for Spygate and the Russia hoax and was breathing down their necks. Plus, he was tough on China and the border. Corporate America had seen enough. So the FBI and the CIA wanted a compromised president in the White House. They had a game plan. Either these people were working for Biden or one of the Bidens was working for them. Was Hunter working for the FBI the whole time? Was Hunter feeding the CIA intel when he was off in Romania, Kazakhstan, and Ukraine? Was he just a little doggy biscuit for the Bureau to lure in the Chinese? Was Hunter an asset? And did Hunter even know he was an asset? Certainly makes sense. Trump got impeached the second he started zeroing in on the Biden family corruption in Ukraine. Makes sense that the intel community covered up the laptop before the election. That would explain why Hunter hasn't been indicted yet and why the charges we hear are coming are just, tax related. The pay for plays off limits we're hearing. That's why Treasury's hiding the suspicious wires. Is the classified documents scandal how the story ends? Did Sloppy Joe just derail the whole operation? Or is the FBI shutting the operation down? And what's going on at the Justice Department?
Some justice officials have been frustrated at times by certain decisions the Biden team has made. For example, weeks after the Justice Department told the Biden team that they would be reviewing this case, the president's team searched the Wilmington home and didn't tell the Justice Department until after they found classified material. A notification wasn't required, but the lack of advance notice irritated some justice officials.
So what the heck was in these documents? They spread out the Trump docs and took pictures of them, remember? All over that nice rug, leaked them on TV. But they won't even brief Democrat senators on the intel community what was in the documents?
Every member of the committee, regardless of Democrat or Republican, were unanimous in that this position, that we are left in limbo until somehow a special counsel designates that it's okay for us to get briefed, is not going to stand.
So selling out America, the corruption, the bribes, that's nothing. But this whole thing shuts down over a few pieces of paper? Something doesn't add up. Stuart Kaplan's a retired FBI special agent who joins us now. So, Stuart, what was the FBI doing this whole time?
Well, good evening, Jesse, and thank you for having me. First of all, the world or the business of espionage and counterintelligence is dirty business. The rules of engagement are cloaked in secrecy. The methods and sources are mostly unknown to most Americans. And so when you talk about the Bidens and you talk about perhaps a free pass with respect to Hunter Biden's, for example, his travel, here's a fact that your viewers need to know. As an FBI agent, we would be well aware that if a former vice president's relative, such as his son, was traveling to a foreign state, we would definitely approach that individual to make sure that their safety was first and foremost, and to ensure that if in fact they were approached by any potential threats, it would be reported back to the embassy or directly to the CIA or the FBI. I see a lot of smoke here all over the place, and there is no doubt that the FBI was well aware of Hunter Biden's engagements, his relationships, and he led them to a lot of individuals. But keep in mind, these are national security investigations. We may never, ever learn about what the end game was for the FBI or the CIA or the DOI, because these are national security investigations that generally do not lead to the criminal arena, where we would then hear it played out in a court of law.
So Hunter was useful to the CIA or to the FBI. Would that mean that Hunter was aware of his usefulness, or would he have no idea?
So there are two ways. Number one is, and I would imagine, given the fact that he had a lot of baggage, there was a lot of liability with respect to Hunter Biden, with respect to just the way he was behaving and living his life. There may have been an assessment that he may not have been approachable with respect to actually signing him up as an informant or as an asset in the normal course of what we generally would do. But then again, that would be something that would have to be discussed as to whether or not it made sense to approach him overtly and let him know that we want to utilize his relationships and exploit those relationships, or were we confident and satisfied that even if he was not aware of our presence, that we were surveilling him and paying attention to what he was doing, we still would reap the benefits of those contacts that he was having overseas?
So how do you interpret the classified document scandal, which is now ballooned into a special counsel investigation?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is, look, I think we can all relate to maybe having someone that we have learned that lives in a household that may have some drug addiction or some behavioral problems. And I think we can all relate that we would probably safeguard our valuables, for example, our jewelry, our car keys, our weapons. And so to suggest that these national security type of classified documents were left unattended, unsecured in the Biden residence, knowing that Hunter Biden, with respect to his behavior, may have had access to them and certainly exploited or potentially exploited that. There is now, the dots seem to come back as to whether or not either the president, meaning the then vice president, or when he was out of office, did he leave them accessible to his son to allow his son to exploit those classified documents for pay to play, so to speak, overseas.
Yep. That's the question right there. Were those documents exploited for cash by Hunter Biden? Thank you very, very much, Stuart. That was eye-opening, and we appreciate you sharing that insight here on Primetime.
My pleasure.
Well, Primetime knows exactly when Pelosi's body cam is going to be released. Funny little story behind that. And comedian Louis C.K. goes on Joe Rogan and blows my mind.
My feeling is they should open it, the border, and just let them pour in, let everybody pour in.
Fox News alert, it's official. San Francisco has agreed to hand over the Paul Pelosi hammer attack video to Primetime tomorrow afternoon. This is a huge Primetime victory. They were trying to keep the footage under wraps, but after we joined a lawsuit, a judge ruled in our favor and demanded the release of the 911 call, DePape's police interview, surveillance footage of the house from Capitol Police, and the body cam. Now, Nancy Pelosi just learned about this, and here's what she said to a Fox producer just moments ago.
Well, I don't have anything to do with the legalities of this. I respect the system. My concern is my husband's, excuse me, I'm trying to hang up, my husband's well-being, and we take that day to day. We're really grateful to the outpouring of prayers and support for him, and that is what our focus is. The justice system we have confidence in, and whatever that is, it is.
Nancy says she's never seen the video of the assault.
Is the body cam footage something that you've seen at this point?
No, I don't even know if I will see it. I mean, it would be a very hard thing to see an assault on my husband's life, but I don't know.
Thank you all. And what's the latest update?
I don't have plans to see it.
But they're still making it as hard as possible for us to get the video. They know we're in New York, and they told us if we want the tape, we have to come in person to San Francisco. And they'll hand us a CD. Remember a CD? This is the tech capital of the world, and they can't email it to us, but that's fine. A producer's already on the way. We'll be there first thing in the morning, West Coast time. The tape's going to give us a treasure trove of evidence and should answer a lot of questions, like who opened the door. The Department of Justice said police opened the door, but sources who saw the body cam video told NBC Paulie P. opened the door. And then NBC suspended their Emmy award-winning journalist who reported the story. They said it didn't meet their standards. We don't really know what those standards are. The tape will also tell us what happened after police arrived. Apparently, Dave DePape smashed Paul's head in with a hammer after police came in. So how'd that happen? They had to know this was the speaker's house. Paul's in San Francisco. He's royalty. They see him wrestling with a guy with a hammer and they don't tackle him? It doesn't make any sense. And how did Capitol Police not spot the guy casing Pelosi's house? They have a live feed of the house being monitored by Capitol Hill Police, and a guy walks around the house in all black with a backpack and smashes his way into the property, and the alarm doesn't go off. The interview with DePape should also tell us what kind of lunatic we're dealing with. We know the guy's a drug addict who went schizo. He talked to squirrels, said he was friends with fairies, and worshipped a guy named Lazarus, who sells insurance in Michigan. He's an illegal alien from Canada who also had a slew of felony convictions like elderly abuse. He should have been deported, but California is a sanctuary state, so he stayed. Thank you, Gavin. DePape's stepdaughter said he would sexually and physically abuse her and her sibling when they were very young. Total sicko. And locals said DePape lived in a little yellow school bus parked in front of his ex's house, who's a nudist activist behind bars for trying to kidnap a 14-year-old boy. His ex says DePape's a progressive and a big fan of Barack Obama. This is how the neighbors described him. Watch.
They are just, nudist drug abusers, and that's who gravitates toward them.
What do you say their politics are?
I'm not sure. I would imagine that they're more left-leaning.
Despite all of that, the press tried to paint this guy as some far-right extremist.
This part will not shock you. The alleged attacker posted conspiracy theories on Facebook, including links to multiple videos from the Trump ally and pillow salesman, Mike Lindell.
David DePape was a fervent QAnon guy.
The suspect who trafficked online in far-right conspiracy theories about COVID and the 2020 election and Holocaust denialism.
So, do you know any conservatives who live in a school bus, worship Lazarus, love Obama, talk to squirrels, and are friends with fairies? Me neither. Instead of using this guy as a political pawn, how about we just do some digging? The entire case is fishy, and the media hardly talks about it. The governor in California doesn't even want to answer about it. He's blaming me for Paulie P. getting hammered.
I watched this one guy, was it Jesse Waters or something on Fox News? What he's been saying about Paul Pelosi the last 5-6 months, mocking him consistently. Don't tell me that's not aiding and abetting all this. Of course it is.
Primetime covered Paulie P's DUI. We don't think someone should just get away with a crime because of their last name. And DePape didn't go there for Paul anyway. He was looking for Nance. He wanted to break Nance's knees and hold her hostage. Newsom's just making stuff up. He thinks if he makes an enemy out of us, he'll have a better shot at the White House. Gav, if you deported the guy, none of this would have ever happened. And now we're getting the tape, and we'll know what really happened that night. Brian Claypool's a criminal defense attorney. So, Brian, what specifically are you looking at the minute you get your hands on this tape? Because we'll share it with you.
Hey, Jesse, great to see you. Before I answer that, Gavin, I got news for Gavin Newsom that dash cams and dash cam footage is created for transparency, Gavin. And that's all that Fox and the country wants to see, transparency on that. That said, Jesse, I got to tell you, the Department of Justice is in a boatload of trouble. If that body cam footage that you get tomorrow shows that Paul Pelosi walked over and opened that door. Why? Because they issued a report that said to the contrary. The two officers opened the door. That is a legally created document that formed an arrest warrant. And if that document is proven to be falsified by that video tomorrow that you're going to get, then I would suggest that Merrick Garland and the whole Department of Department of Justice needs to be investigated. And one more question for you and the world is, and look, I don't want anybody to get hurt by getting assaulted, but if Paul Pelosi was legitimately in fear for his life and he walks over and opens the door, why wouldn't he run out the door? That's what we have to see in this footage. Why would he walk back to the alleged assailant, have a conversation? And by the way, hopefully we get audio footage too. What was discussed? What were they chit-chatting about? And how did this assault take place? Yeah. That's what we need to see.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the tape and getting to the bottom of this. And just we want to know the truth. That's all we want. That's all we ever want. Thank you so much, Brian. We'll discuss this tomorrow.
You bet. Thank you, Jesse.
Coming up, one of these climate people, the people that throw soup on paintings, is here to talk to Prime Time. For years, schools taught the basics, reading, writing, arithmetic. And now the liberal arts colleges have infected these schools. A well-rounded education's basically white privilege and homeroom and abolish capitalism after recess. Critical race theory spreading like a disease. Teachers pushed politicians to ban it, and some did. But some teachers didn't see that as an order. They saw it as a challenge to bend the rules and change the names. On Friday, we aired hidden camera videos of Ohio school districts bragging about how the CRT sausage is made.
have some parents that, they don't fully understand. So, it's when we trick them,
What do you mean?
But, similar situation. So if we have a certain content that we want to share with students, and they see one word in the language, it's like, oh no, we can't do that. Well, let's look at it from a different, viewpoint, and then they're okay.
We reached out to that school district for comment, and they accused us of deceptively editing that video. That video we just showed you, there wasn't a single edit. And the group that goes undercover, Accuracy in Media, who does a great job, they left Ohio, and now they're in Utah, a place you'd never expect CRT. But look what they found.
What does the MAGA crowd or the church say when you start talking about social justice?
You teach it to a group of seniors at West Jordan High, and they don't.
Ultimately, talk to students about what is diversity, what is microaggressions, especially at the middle school level.
Or even middle school, do they get any social justice?
Yeah, in junior high, yes.
We have a very close partnership with Planned Parenthood, and they come speak in our district all the time.
Whenever our team goes out, we don't do an opt-out prior to. They just go out, meet the kids, work with them. We operate like a math department.
Parents need to wake up. Don't listen to the media. They'll just spin this into, oh, you want to ban books or you don't want slavery taught in schools. That's BS. The truth is, we don't want our kids called colonizers in kindergarten. Is that too much to ask? And we don't want teachers sneaking around behind our backs. Those are our kids. They're not yours. Douglas Murray is a Fox News contributor. I didn't like that woman at the end who said they don't do the sign out sheet. You have to give your parents a little sheet. You're going on a field trip or anything. They don't even give that to the parents. That's sneaky.
Yeah, well, the whole thing has been sneaky. I mean, remember, ever since the CRT in schools issue first came up in this country, people from the teaching unions to individual teachers to Democrat politicians and others and campaigners have been saying the same thing. At one and the same time, they say, CRT is not taught in our schools.
Right.
CRT should be taught in our schools. CRT is good. There is nothing wrong with it, but it's also not being taught. None of that makes sense.
So it's obviously being taught because we have the video, and they're lying about not teaching it.
And I mean, that thing we just heard from Utah of, we operate like a maths department. Well, kind of, except that first of all, you haven't told the parents you're teaching this so-called math-like subject. And secondly, of course, as we know, CRT doesn't add up to anything. Right. The whole thing is a mess, and I've written about this at length. Ideologically and everything else, the whole thing is a mess. In CRT land, 2 + 2 = 5. So no, they don't operate like a maths department. They operate like a systematic operation of brainwashing Americans' children into thinking that, America started in 1619, that everyone's a colonizer, that there is a hierarchy of oppression and much more. They just teach us gibberish. And so when when parents hear kids coming back from school spouting this, they spout it because they were taught it in the classroom, because, as Randy Weingarten and others know, it's a beautiful thing which they don't teach, and they do teach.
And everybody knows America started in the late 18th century when we beat the pants off of you guys.
Well, I mean, that's a disputed issue.
All right, Murray, love having you on. Thank you so much.
Great to see you.
Now, the woman who escaped the climate change crazies, the people that throw soup at Van Goghs, she joins us next. We were wondering the other day, what's Louis C.K. been up to since he got Me Too'd? The guy was one of America's top comedians until, poof, disappears. Well, we tracked him down, and it looks like he's been advising the White House on border policy.
My feeling is they should open it, the border, and just let everybody pour in, and then the answer, which is, well, then there'll be all these problems. Yes, there should be. It shouldn't be so great here, is what I'm saying. In America, it shouldn't be. It's a weird thing to sequester a certain group of people and try to keep upping their lifespan and their lifestyle. and just keep trying to increase that for this group of people, and then this pressure of people trying to come in so they can enjoy it, that are drone bombed in Yemen because a guy said something that might have resulted in American insecurity, not even like definite American deaths, but like just so we can breathe a little easier. Folks die. And folks do labor in unsafe places so that we can keep the prices where we like them. There's so much about American life that other people pay for. That's part of it. But also, it's not good for us either. It's not a good way to live in a gated community, you know? If you let folks pour in, like any other wave, it'll kind of slosh. And then things will be different. I don't know, like, what'll really happen? A bunch of people, like, will they just come with knives and start killing everybody? I don't think so.
Louis. Oh, boy. That was something. So, when you think of a cult, what comes to mind? The Manson family, people in robes making human sacrifices, or maybe you just think of jumpsuits and Kool-Aid.
I'm so glad you could join us, Meg. We're going to have a great time on our trip. A trip? Like to the beach? Because I didn't bring my bathing suit. Oh, you won't need anything for where we're going. Excuse me, I've got to go mix the punch.
But what if the biggest cult in the world was right in front of our eyes? I'm talking about Extinction Rebellion. You know, the people who destroy priceless works of art. So the crew thinks fossil fuels are killing us, and we only have 10 years left. So they're destroying things we love on Earth in order to save Earth. And it's not just in art galleries, and you can see it anywhere. I mean, you can't even get to work these days without people blocking traffic. Remember the protesters that took over the highway in D.C. in the summer? They brought everything to a halt for 2 hours. One guy was on parole, and he was late for work, so he had to go back to prison. That's pretty bad. So we wanted to see what these groups were all about. Remember, we sent a producer to Central Park to talk to some of the members of Extinction Rebellion to see exactly what they were worried about.
Civilizational collapse is not exaggerated.
Like genocide and homicide, nature has life as well, and we are nature, we are life.
It says climate change equals mass murder.
Okay, so who's being murdered?
Well, all of us, slowly.
These people have developed a fanatical following, using language like you saw, mass murder, genocide, civilizational collapse, to provoke you and scare you into surrendering your lifestyle. But there's hope. People can escape. My next guest is the former spokesperson for Extinction Rebellion. She left the movement after she had an awakening. Zion Lights joins me now. So, Zion, before we get to why you left, what does Extinction Rebellion believe in?
Well, first of all, just to make a distinction, I was in Extinction Rebellion and a spokesperson for Extinction Rebellion, but the people who throw soup now and block roads now are Just Stop Oil. It's a different group. And people have come out of Extinction Rebellion to create Just Stop Oil, don't get me wrong, but in Extinction Rebellion there was a battle going on between those kind of extreme people with extreme views and the rest of us, and I was on the other side, trying to, use what was a really good platform. They were giving me good media slots to talk about the issues and how we could address them, but really I wasn't allowed to, and that was why I ended up leaving.
What weren't you allowed to talk about when you were involved with this group?
Well, look, there's a difference between what climate activists are telling you and what climate scientists say. So if you look at research by climate scientists, they don't say civilization's ended. There is not a consensus in that. They do not say we only have 10 years left. This is all just overblown hyperbole. But they do say, actually, look, we're facing these issues and there are things we can do to help resolve them. And they're quite sensible, things like nuclear energy, carbon capture storage. But these groups just choose to focus on the apocalyptic part. And when I was trained as a spokesperson, that's what I was told to do. And I was told to, wake people up and scare them and make them panic. And I didn't want to do that. I felt that we should be talking about solutions and trying to, do good in this space. But ultimately, I was bound by the rules of a spokesperson, and I wasn't really able to talk about the issues like I wanted to. And I did actually go on television as a spokesperson and say that they were using alarmist language, which they then didn't like that I did. So it was very difficult. It was very difficult to be in that group and do any good. And I've actually started to think that the entire environmental movement has overall done more harm than good.
Wow. So you think it's done more harm than good because you're saying that they don't actually want to solve the climate crisis. They just want to what? They just want to inconvenience people and cause mayhem?
Different people want different things. What I realized at Extinction Rebellion was that some of the leaders, basically, it claims to be a leaderless movement. It's not. There are leaders who come up with the demands, who decide what the strategy is, who say we should, get arrested en masse. Those people, honestly, they're just doing it for ego, and they're doing it because they want political revolution, and that's it. They do not care about climate change. Then you get lots of these people like me who do actually care about environmental issues, who get involved because, look, these are the good guys. That's what you do. That's what everybody thinks. Look at Greenpeace, look at Friends of the Earth, very well funded by donations, by people who think they're giving money to a good cause. Hey, I give money to them, they'll help the environment. Actually, those groups have protested things like nuclear energy and GMOs for decades. So they haven't just not promoted solutions. They have actively protested solutions that science says that we need to address all kinds of issues, even beyond environmental issues.
You said they wanted a political revolution. They want to overthrow what and replace it with what?
So Extinction Rebellion had 3 demands, and the third demand was its kind of solution-based demand, which is to replace current democracy with citizens' assemblies. So every group
replace democracy with citizen assemblies? What is a citizen assembly?
The idea is that you gather an average group of people like a jury, and you get them to sit down and you get them to decide, them to make decisions instead of the current system with politicians. That they don't believe in that kind of democracy.
Like little juries all over the world deciding everything for us. Okay.
And they're not hiding that. That is their third demand in all the countries where these groups exist. That's their third demand. And when I went on the Angie Neal show and I was asked all these questions about what should we do to replace gas, what are we going to do without flying, I wanted to give real answers, but I had been told in my training, what you do is you point to that third demand, and I sat there and I couldn't do it because I knew he'd tear it to shreds and that political revolution isn't actually the answer. But also that was the moment when I realized, hang on a minute, this isn't about climate change. This isn't about making things better on the planet. This is about some people just wanting to overthrow the system, because what they say is it's the current system that created climate change, right? And they said that early on, and even people like Greta Thunberg picked up that messaging. All climate activists everywhere picked up this messaging. It's the system that needs to change. Because actually, if you're saying climate change is so serious that we need to deal with it now, then we don't have time anyway to change the system. And that's what I started saying.
The ego is a very, very powerful force. Trust me, I know. Thank you so much for joining us, and we're glad you got out of Extinction Rebellion or whatever group that was. Tell them I said hello, and they're welcome on Primetime anytime. Up next, what's happening to America?
Finish the quote. The only thing we have to fear is
life itself.
Biden's not hiring the best and the brightest. I think you know who I'm talking about. Well, this week, hearings are taking place for a couple of his judicial nominees.
Tell me what Article 5 of the Constitution does.
Article 5 is not coming to mind at the moment.
Okay. How about Article 2?
Neither is Article 2.
So Biden's judicial nominee just flunked her judicial quiz. Well, maybe it's harder than we think. We hit the streets to ask New Yorkers, do they know any famous quotes from U.S. history? Not pretty. Watch.
finish the quote. The only thing we have to fear is
life itself.
God. Us. Fear itself. Another shutdown?
I would shut it down.
Democracy is the government of the people, by the people.
I should know this.
I told you this is going to be a little embarrassing. For the people.
It's been a long time since history class.
It's been a while.
Ask not what your country can do for you, ask
What it can do for others?
What Martin Luther King could do for you.
What you can do for your country.
Who said that one?
Was it Biden?
No, no, no.
Edgar Hoover?
Abraham Lincoln.
John
Hancock? Hamilton?
John!
That would be John F. Kennedy, right?
Yes, 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 yes.
Finish the quote. That's one small step for man, one
small step for women.
One small step for humanity?
Giant leap for mankind.
Yes. Who said that one?
No, not Bill Nye, the science guy.
Bill Nye, the science guy.
The one that went to the moon, right? Neil Armstrong. It's Neil.
Ding, ding, ding. What do we have for her, Johnny?
Johnny would bring sandwiches made by his mother.
December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in
1941.
Memory.
I have no idea. This is like a history thing.
a date which will live in
infamy. Canada?
You're kidding.
You'll get this one. One nation under God, indivisible with.
I haven't said that in a while.
One nation under God. Oh God, I know this, sweetie. I'm sorry.
Truth and justice for all.
Justice, peace, liberty, for all.
One nation indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do have one more for you.
Go.
Fill in the phrase. I'm Waters and.
I'm Waters and Ice.
And this is Waters' World.
A little update on the olive oil spillage in the Waters driveway. We've heard from all of America, and I mean all of America. I think I know exactly what we need to get this oil spill taken care of. We've addressed it. We believe this afternoon and tomorrow I will have a full update on whether or not all of your suggestions were successful. Stay tuned. Randy from Maryland. Jesse, listening to your segment on the FBI and the Bidens, it makes all the sense in the world why Joe says nobody F's with the Biden. Jamie from Kentucky, big guy, four fingers, the chin, naughty niece. Where do you come up with this stuff? I'm cuckoo. Carly out of New York, what else did Johnny find when you sent him document diving? We can't tell you. It's classified. Kelly from Georgia, CRT equals crazy racist teachers. But apparently we've taken them all out of context. Gabby from Florida says Mr. Louis C.K. should test that theory with his own home. Start by taking off his doors and windows and let them all in. Yeah, Louis C.K., I can still see if we opened up the borders, you still would be living in a gated community. Drake from Idaho. Jesse, I love when you have these reformed ex-crazies on your show. It gives me hope for the country. One ex-crazy at a time. That's how we do things on prime time. Ted from New Jersey, in 20 years, I hope kids remember Biden's most famous quote, Corn Pop was a bad dude. Yes, of all the great historical quotations from America's greatest presidents, I wonder what will go down in the Biden history of quotations. I don't know. Maybe nobody F's with a Biden. Maybe Corn Pop was a bad dude. There's just so many to choose from. I can't even do it. That is all for us tonight. DVR the show. It's just a button. If you could DVR the show, you could easily get the olive oil out of the driveway. Not that hard. Tucker Carlson's up next. And always remember, I'm Waters, and this is my world.